Alright, so here is homework 1-1. And here's the first question. Derek, the D stands for dumb, said the function shown in the graph is positive on the interval from -1 to 5 and negative on the interval from -5 to 1. Okay, so the interval from -1 to 5, he's talking about this. Okay, and I know how notation is for about a quarter of the students this year. This is asking about the graph from x equals -1 until x equals 5. That's why I highlighted that. Now, that is not positive. That is actually what we call increasing. So it's going uphill. Okay, the graph is increasing on the interval -1 to 5. Now, when Derek speaks of the interval from -5 to 1, he just had a semantics error is what he had. He's talking about that guy. And here the graph is going downhill, so we would say it is decreasing from -5 to -1. Notice they didn't use parentheses. That's because at -1 we are neither increasing or decreasing, so we don't use the bracket for including. I'm not going to do I'm going to save number 3 for y'all. If you got to ask about it, you got to ask about it. At least try and figure out some of it. Like before don't just be the kid who leaves it blank and then like, I didn't even try that one, man. I'm just going to let Milbrath do it. Why don't you try? Figure out what you can. Let's see here. I'll do 5. 5 is a quadratic. Must be an x squared function. Let's see, we're supposed to specify its domain and range. So let's look at the grid here. It takes 4 blocks to drop 2 units. That must mean that every 2 blocks is a single unit. So it looks like this thing has a low y value of -7. Now its domain, it's a parabola. It runs left forever and it runs right forever. So its domain is going to be -infinity to infinity. That's easy peasy. So domain, D for domain. -infinity, where's that infinity symbol at? There it is, to positive infinity. And I know I've got a lot of kids who are struggling with domain and range. Domain is your x's, okay? It's about your left to right. Range is your y's, which is about your down to up, okay? So when I talk about my range here, my low y value is at -7, and it's a point. Like there's not an open hole or anything. It's there. It's -7, and we rise on either side of the parabola to infinity. Don't let domain and range be something that gets you. Probably the main reason is because you haven't sat down and really tried to figure it out. Maybe you've just copied me off my videos. Maybe you've just copied a friend's paper. But then again, I've seen this year after year, kids really struggle with domain and range, and I don't know how to make it any easier than that. Maybe you're not memorizing what it is. Like there's something that's missing, and you need to figure out what's missing and figure it out. B, the x and y intercepts, and I want them as ordered pairs. So there's an x-intercept, there's an x-intercept. Looks like we have an x-intercept at -4, 0, and 2, 0. There's my x-intercepts. And my y-intercept would be down here. It's at 0. Looks to me like -8. Alright. On what function intervals is the function positive? Now, do remember that being positive means above the x-axis. That's what it means to be positive. It means to be above the x-axis. And that's happening here and forever as you move right, and here as you move left. So if we talk about the left interval first, which we should do, we are positive from -infinity all the way until we get really, really close to that x value of -4. And I'm going to use parentheses because it didn't say positive is not 0. 0 is something else. 0 has no sign. Unioned with, I don't know if I've talked to you guys about the U or not, union with 2 to infinity. Very possible in some classes I have and some I haven't. But I'm either this one and I'm that one. So union with. All right, on what intervals is the function increasing? Oh, that's in the wrong spot. That needs to go up here. I completely missed this one. On what intervals is the function negative? That means I am below the x-axis. And that is going to be this. And hopefully you can see that this starts happening when x is just to the right of -4, and it stops when x is just to the left of +2. So it's an easy interval to write, from -4 all the way to 2. Now, you know, if you like set builder, all values of y such that -4 less than y less than 2, you might be that kid. You might be. Up here, if you like set builder, that'd be all values of x such that x is less than -4, comma, x is greater than 2. Close off the curly braces. But you pick whichever one you like. Just make sure you comprehend them. All right, E, on what intervals is the function increasing? So increasing is about having positive slope, which hopefully you comprehend. That's what increasing means. We have positive slope. Don't be like Derek from the earlier problem. Positive slope is going to be everything to the right of the vertex, because that is increasing. And that happens, looks to me like we have an x value of -1 there. So let me put that point on there. That point's -1, -7. So from the right of -1, we have positive slope. So that starts at -1 and it continues right forever until we hit infinity. Decreasing would be negative slope. And that's where we're falling. And we're falling on the left-hand side of this particular graph. So we actually start at negative infinity and we stop falling once we get close to -1. Close it off. All right. G is, what is the average rate of change over the interval from -3 to 2? So what they're really asking here is, what is the slope between these 2 points? So let's find where x is -3. Let's go down to the graph. It's right there. Okay. Let's go to where x is 2. Put a point on the graph. And let's just connect those dots. There's a formula for average rate of change. There's a formula for slope. But you can literally just always do rise over run. So it looks to me like that's -5. So I've got to rise 5, okay? And this was -3, and I'm running all the way to 2. So I also ran 5. I rose 5 and I ran 5. Which is just 1. 5 over 5. 1. So that's not too bad. Of course, it's about a graph, and I'm convinced a large percentage of the population might have dysgraphia, but I don't know. All right. I'm trying to think ahead how much I want to do today. I really only want to do one of these average rate of change. I didn't assign a whole lot of homework. It's only 9 problems, which for a math class is nothing. I'll do 2 of them. I will do both 7 and 9. So the formula for average rate of change is going to be f of b minus f of a sitting pretty over b minus a. That's the formula for average rate of change. It's not a hard little formula. You get a and b from the interval. First one's a, second one's b. And we're just going to plug in. So if I want to find f of b, everywhere I see an x, I'm going to replace it with a 4. So it's going to be -3 absolute values of 4 minus 2, add 4. Now 4 minus 2 is 2, and the absolute value of 2 is 2. -3 times 2 is -6. Add 4, I'm sitting at -2. Cool, got to find f of a now. And to find f of a, I'm going to plug in a -1. So -3 absolute values of negative 1 minus 2 and then plus 4. Negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3, and the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. Negative 3 times 3 is 9, and negative 9 plus 4 is negative 5. So I've got everything I need. So now I can use my little formula here. F of b was negative 2. I'm going to be taking away a negative 5, and it's going to be sitting pretty over 4 minus a negative 1. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes. My phone's going off over there. It kind of distracted me. I think it's right. Alright, taking away a negative is addition. So negative 2 plus 5 is 3. Taking away a negative is addition. 4 plus 1 is 5. On average, the slope there is 3/5. Not what I expected, but okay, thinking about the graph, I'm okay with that. And the last one I'm going to do is number 9. Number 9 is actually getting close to a pre-calc / calc concept. Like, it's going to throw some kids off here, but you still have an A and you still have a B. Okay? So to find f of b, I'm going to let x be h. Everywhere I see an x, I'm an h. And there's nothing else you can do with that thing. That's what f of b is. To find f of a, I'm going to let x be 0. So twice a 0 squared plus a 1. If you don't know that a 0 squared is 0, you're a 0. So 2 times 0 is also 0. If you add 1, you get 1. And then let's just follow in a formula. So f of b gets replaced with 2h squared plus 1. So 2h squared plus 1. I am taking away f of a, which happens to be 1. And I'm sitting over b minus a, which is h minus 0. The 1's cancel. I'm left with 2h squared over h, because h minus 0 is still h. And I want you to think back to Algebra 1. X squared over x was nothing more than x. So h squared over h is nothing more than h. 2h is my average rate of change over that interval. More letters. It's exactly what you asked for, right? More letters. Anyways, that's all the homework I got time to do. As you can see, it's 3 o'clock and I'm no longer getting paid. Later.